Everyone is so wrong about Ethereum. That is the message from Cathie Wood, one of the most aggressive institutional bulls in all of crypto. For years, she has been the face of Wall Street's crypto revolution, building a reputation for making the kind of bold calls that the mainstream laughed at until they came true. But now, in her latest outlook, she has dropped a bombshell. Despite being one of the most bullish voices in the crypto market, Cathie's advice is to sell almost everything. Out of thousands of coins, she only believes in 3, maybe 4. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and a small project still being tested. And when it comes to Ethereum's future, she is directly challenging Tom Lee and the broader market. This video is going to break down Cathie Wood's outlook step by step. First, why she has narrowed her focus to only a handful of coins. Second, why she says Tom Lee is completely wrong about Ethereum. And third, we will dive into her most recent crypto predictions, including Bitcoin hitting over $1 million and Ethereum being on track for a $20 trillion market capitalization heading into 2026 and beyond. This is Cathie Wood's most controversial call to date, and if she is right, the entire market has misread the future of Ethereum. And before we jump into it, just a quick reminder, only a small percentage of you watching are actually subscribed. If you're getting value from the videos, hit that subscribe button. It's free, it supports the channel, and you can always change your mind later. Now, let's begin first hearing from Cathie Wood herself on which coin she's focused on right now.
Is there a long list of other cryptocurrencies that you believe in, or is it actually a handful only?
It's really only a handful so far.
Which are the other ones?
Well, of course, we've got Bitcoin. Now, in our public funds, these trades are public, so I can tell you our exposures are Bitcoin, Ether. We're finally able to get an acceptable, from a regulator's point of view, way to play Ether, and we chose Bitmine immersion. And in the and then Solana is the third one, and we can talk about that as well in terms of its role. That one is through, well, it's Brera Sports, and everybody thinks I or ARC just bought a bunch of sports teams, which we did not. This is the company into which Soulmate is a Solana treasury is being folded and supported by the UAE, Middle Eastern, and my mentor, our advisor, and my friend Art Laffer is on the board of that one. So that's been very interesting. So those are the big 3. Hyperliquid is the new kid on the block, and we're waiting to see how that all plays out. It's exciting. It reminds me of Solana in the earlier days, and Solana has proven its worth and is, there with the big boys.
Cathie Wood has built a reputation as one of the boldest institutional voices in digital assets. While Wall Street has been slow to adapt, Cathie has never hidden her conviction that cryptocurrency will redefine the financial system. But in her most recent interview, she gave an answer that caught even her supporters off guard. When pressed on whether she saw a long list of promising cryptocurrencies, she said no. Her confidence rests on only a handful. She named them directly: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and maybe Hyperliquid if it proves itself. That's it. This is not about chasing every token that launches with hype. For her, Bitcoin is untouchable as the monetary standard. Ethereum is her firm's gateway to decentralized finance, finally made accessible through regulatory approval of companies like Bitmine Immersion. Solana comes in as her third choice, supported by large-scale initiatives including treasury programs backed by the United Arab Emirates. Hyperliquid is the one she is watching but has not yet committed to in size. This is the opposite of what many retail investors expect. In a world of thousands of tokens, Cathie is saying only 3 matters today and a 4th is just a possibility. That is the kind of focus that tells you where serious capital is moving. Having established the handful of coins Cathie considers worth holding, the next step is to look at how she ranks her top positions and why those 3 projects stand apart.
What are, let's say, the top protocols or projects you're watching in crypto right now?
Okay. Well, again, because we're primarily in the public markets, and because I think one of our roles, just like one of CoinDesk's role, is to really educate. So we are watching our clients and guiding them carefully into the ecosystem. Bitcoin, Ether. We do have private funds which had a very heavy weighting in Solana relative to ETH until recently. And, we made a very good move at a good time as Ether started to outpace Solana. So those are the big three for us.
When asked what her top protocols were right now, she gave the same three: Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. They are the holdings that dominate ARK's public and private funds. For months, Solana had even been weighted more heavily than Ethereum in some of her private allocations, but that shifted recently. Ethereum began to outpace Solana, and ARK Invest rotated capital into it. While Bitcoin remains Cathie's number one, Ethereum is her second pillar, powering the decentralized financial economy with smart contracts and developer activity that still leads the field. Solana is her third, where she sees high-speed infrastructure, global partnerships, and a growing user base, but also more risk. The fact that ARK still places Solana in its top three shows she is not afraid to back conviction when the risk-reward balance looks right. But while Cathie remains selective, she is not the only institutional figure to adopt this kind of narrow focus. Kevin O'Leary has recently voiced an even stricter position, and his comments shed light on the broader mindset shaping institutional crypto investment.
But if you look at statistically, the volatility of just Bitcoin and Ethereum and a stable coin for liquidity, pick your stable coin. Some people like Tether, some people like USDC. That's all I need to own.
Kevin O'Leary has always been blunt, and when it comes to cryptocurrency, he is even more direct. His view is that only Bitcoin and Ethereum are worth holding, with one stablecoin for liquidity. That is the entire portfolio he considers necessary. For him, everything else carries too much volatility and too little institutional clarity. Kevin points out that the volatility profiles of Bitcoin and Ethereum already challenge traditional asset classes, and stablecoins provide the liquidity bridge institutions need. In his eyes, everything beyond those is an unnecessary gamble. His position shows just how far institutional caution goes. Cathie at least makes room for Solana and is willing to watch Hyperliquid. Kevin refuses to budge beyond the two giants, but if you step back, the overlap is striking. Both of them, despite their differences, are saying the same thing. The future of cryptocurrency investment is narrowing to only a few dominant names. Retail traders may still hunt for the next explosive altcoin, but the serious money is flowing into the same three coins again and again. Cathie Wood agrees with Kevin on being selective, but she disagrees with Tom Lee on the future of Ethereum. That debate opens the door for what comes next.
Let's touch on Bitcoin versus Ethereum, because we had Tom Lee on a few weeks ago, and he's a bull on Bitcoin, but he's even bigger bull on Ethereum. He thinks will surpass the size of Bitcoin. Why is he wrong on that? Why is Bitcoin always going to be bigger than Ethereum?
They get a disproportionate amount of the fees. Now, the question is, are there going to be so many layer twos out there that they're going to start competing against one another and confer more importance to the layer one? That is a possibility, and that is why we're invested in Ether, and we do think it powers the DeFi world. But I think these competing interests are maybe something that Tom and I can debate a little bit.
Cathie Wood and Tom Lee are two of the most recognized institutional bulls in the digital asset world, but they do not see eye to eye on Ethereum. Tom Lee has argued that Ethereum could surpass Bitcoin in size, becoming the dominant digital asset by market capitalization. Cathie strongly rejects that idea. In her view, Bitcoin is in a different league altogether. She broke it down into three roles. First, Bitcoin is a monetary system governed by strict rules of quantity, the first in human history to establish a decentralized supply cap that no government can manipulate. Second, it is a technological breakthrough, a layer 1 blockchain that has never been hacked. Other blockchains cannot make that claim. Third, Bitcoin represents the first of its kind in a completely new asset class. For Cathie, these three qualities are why Bitcoin holds a status that no other cryptocurrency can match. At the same time, ARK's allocation history tells its own story.
I know that Solana was doing much better. Solana had a massive run relative to Ether. And so many people were challenging that notion, and yet we're seeing the votes being placed, and it makes sense. Ethereum, while it might be higher cost and a little slower, it's more decentralized and therefore more secure. There are all kinds of problems when 40 Act funds buy another fund, another ETF to gain exposure. There are tax issues. There are fee issues, fees upon fee issues. There's something called, and this is a tax issue, bad income. If the profits associated with something generating bad income, bad doesn't mean evil at all. It just means it's a tax term. If those profits, gross profits, this is gross, there's no netting here. If those gross profits are more than 10% of the total profits generated in a year of a fund, the entire fund can be shut down. The tax benefit, you'll basically you'll lose a lot of tax benefits, and you'll be subjecting the fund to a great number of fines, if not actual shutting down. So we can't take those risks. And as you can tell, I'm not deep into tax law, and I'm not going to be able to explain exactly who, what, when, where, why, and how. I just listened to our trading team, our compliance team, our finance team, and I say, okay, I can't go there. It's just, I can't do it. So this is the first time we've been able to gain a solid position in Ether.
For a long time, ARK Invest placed heavier weight on Solana in its private funds than on Ethereum. Solana's rapid growth and high-performance network made it a compelling option. That stance shifted when Ethereum began to regain strength and outpace Solana in adoption. ARK rotated capital into Ethereum, a move that reflected both conviction and practicality. Cathie admitted that Ethereum has drawbacks. It is more expensive to use and slower in transaction speed. But she highlighted why that trade-off is acceptable. Ethereum is more decentralized and therefore more secure. In her world, decentralization equals survival. Solana can scale quickly, but Ethereum's resilience and its deep developer community make it a safer bet for institutions that cannot afford catastrophic failure. She also explained why regulatory clarity was critical to her decision. Funds operating under the Investment Company Act of 1940 face strict rules. They cannot simply buy another fund or ETF to gain exposure. Doing so creates tax complications and fee structures that can jeopardize the entire fund status. In the past, this made it impossible for ARK to hold Ethereum directly. That barrier has now been resolved. For the first time, ARK has secured a way to gain substantial exposure to Ethereum without triggering regulatory red flags. This breakthrough matters because it allows Cathie to scale her Ethereum position in a way that was impossible before. It also signals that Ethereum is gaining legitimacy in the eyes of regulators. Institutional investors who were once blocked by compliance issues can now participate. For Cathie, this does not change her belief that Bitcoin will remain the leader, but it strengthens her conviction that Ethereum will continue to play a major role in digital finance. What emerges is a clear distinction between Tom Lee's outlook and Cathie Wood's. Tom Lee sees Ethereum eventually overtaking Bitcoin in scale. Cathie Wood insists that Bitcoin is irreplaceable as the monetary anchor of the new system. Both agree Ethereum has a future, but they diverge on just how far it can go. And this difference in outlook sets up the most important question investors always ask: where do they see prices heading? That is where Cathie delivers her most aggressive forecast yet.
Well, I know that your outlook there is a $1.5 million Bitcoin by 2030. Has that changed at all?
So when people ask me what is the biggest surprise in the last 10 years, so we started ARK in 2014. We wrote our first Bitcoin blog back then. 2015, we wrote our first white paper on Bitcoin. And we thought that Bitcoin in emerging markets would serve the role that stablecoins now are serving. And Tether is just an unbelievable story that way. I just learned from one of the founders of Tether, Paolo, that they had no idea that Tether would become an important source of dollar exposure to emerging markets until COVID, when the children of in families in emerging markets would go to their parents and say, you don't have to go into the black market today to buy dollars. We can do this on the internet. And that's how it really spread, which is fascinating, isn't it? We thought Bitcoin would serve that role because we didn't know about stablecoins. And even very recently, I think we're becoming very surprised at how quickly the uptake of stablecoins is. So if we had to modify anything in that $1.5 million forecast, you'd probably see and you can see on a table in Big Ideas 2025, how we build up the bull case. We'd probably take a little bit from the emerging market part of that stack. But I think the much bigger force right now is it's the gateway into digital assets for institutional. It's a new asset class. That and the really substitute for gold as a store of value, another use case. Those are the two biggest, and those we have not changed at all our opinion on. So I think we can safely say that our bull case is well over $1 million in 5 years.
Cathie Wood has never pulled back from bold forecasts, and her target for Bitcoin remains one of the most aggressive in institutional finance. In her words, Bitcoin will be well over $1 million within the next 5 years. That is not a headline grab for her, it is the product of a detailed model that ARK Invest has been building for years. She explained that if there is any modification to the previous $1.5 million forecast, it would be in how the components are weighted, not in the total upside. The biggest force in her view is Bitcoin becoming the entry point for institutions into digital assets. As more firms move capital into Bitcoin, its role as a store of value and its comparison to gold become impossible to ignore. Bitcoin is no longer just a speculative play, it is a substitute for gold, but one with superior portability, verifiability, and scarcity. The question now is what role Ethereum will play in this setup. But before we answer that, if you want to stay ahead of these signals and know exactly when the market's heating up or when it's giving you those rare buying windows, I break it down every day in the Crypto Nutshell, my free 5-minute daily crypto newsletter. It's built to give you quick, actionable insights so you can make smarter decisions without spending hours buried in charts or headlines. You'll get clear signals on when to buy, when to take profits, and the latest news that could move markets, all delivered straight to your inbox. Just click the first link in the description, enter your email, and you're in.
We've been evolving our point of view on Ether. When we started our analysis, we were pretty much, and this was with Chris, Bitcoin was what we needed to understand first, but we were keeping our eye on all of the other assets, and we stuck pretty closely to the thesis, the FAT protocol thesis that Chris's partner Joel Monegro came up with at Union Square Ventures. Which says that the value accrual will take place more at the currency level. And we believe there would be only a few currencies in the world, much like there are today. We thought Bitcoin would be the reserve currency, and we were looking for the other currencies. And Ether was showing up as a very strong second. And I have been surprised at how Ether and the Ethereum network is mushrooming with stable coins, NFTs, decentralized finance. It's clearly satisfying a huge unmet need. One of those needs is yield out there, and we see that in the fixed income markets. The ridiculous rallies that have taken place.
While Bitcoin is the monetary anchor, Cathie sees Ethereum as the second great pillar. ARK Invest has published research suggesting that Ethereum's market capitalization could exceed $20 trillion within the next 10 years. The projection comes from Ethereum's ability to displace traditional financial services. If decentralized networks absorb even a portion of global settlement, Ethereum and the decentralized applications built on it could capture enormous value. ARK's 2022 Big Ideas report illustrates the scale. Ethereum's market cap at the time sat under $500 billion, but as the base protocol for decentralized finance, non-fungible tokens, and stablecoin infrastructure, its potential extends into global financial services worth over $20 trillion. The report frames Ethereum as the preferred collateral of decentralized finance and the unit of account across digital marketplaces. If Ethereum captures only a fraction of the $123 trillion in global money supply, the valuation would dwarf anything seen in today's markets. Cathie admitted she was surprised by just how fast Ethereum has mushroomed. Stablecoins, decentralized exchanges, lending protocols, and tokenization have accelerated beyond expectations. She connected Ethereum's growth to a massive unmet demand for yield in global markets. Traditional fixed income has struggled to offer returns in real terms, while Ethereum-based applications have unlocked new forms of income for participants worldwide. That demand is structural, not temporary. The key message is that both Bitcoin and Ethereum have room to grow on different dimensions. Bitcoin grows as digital gold and monetary base. Ethereum grows as the backbone of financial services. Anyway, guys, that's all we have for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.